Yes.
Good evening. I'm going to open us up for the Morganton Planning and Zoning Commission, our first meeting of the new year. Welcome, everyone. Today's January 8th, 2026. To get us started, I'm going to read a disclosure of interest as we kick off the meeting. Any member of the commission who may have a conflict of interest or a possible conflict of interest regarding any item of business to be discussed at a commission meeting should declare that conflict of interest to enable the commission to manage the conflict and resolve it in accordance with the stated code. Given the agenda for this evening, does anyone have any disclosures of interest they would like to mention? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on. Great. All right, at this time, it's reserved to provide citizens an opportunity to appear before the Planning Commission about issues other than those appearing on the agenda. Citizens may present their planning ideas, opinions, or concerns for commission consideration and discussion. If there's anyone wishing to speak on something not on the agenda this evening, please make yourself known. All right, seeing none, we're going to move forward. Okay, first we're going to have a review of old business before we get into new business. First is the review and approval of the May 8th, 2025 minutes. It's been quite some time since we've had the pleasure of meeting. Those were all given to the committee members ahead of the meeting. Did anyone have anything they wanted to comment or mention before we approve those for the record? Okay, seeing none, we will approve those. And then following that meeting, there was a city council action, and then I'm going to let Wendy speak on that.
Yes, so at that May meeting, there was a presentation about rezoning 5 roughly properties at 1807 South Sterling Street and the surrounding areas from medium intensity district to high intensity district. The Planning Commission voted 6-3 for a denial of that application. That application was then presented with presentations from the applicant at the following City Council meeting on June 2nd, 2025, and there was a unanimous decision by the City Council to deny that rezoning application.
Okay, thank you for that update. All right, now we're going to move on to new business. We have one item for this evening I'm going to read aloud. The first item is a consideration for an application submitted by Robert Bigelow, 595 Causby Road LLC, to rezone the 6.145 acres of property listed as 595 Causby Road. The property is currently zoned exclusive industrial district, excuse me, and the application is to rezone to high intensity district. And I'm going to turn it over to Wendy to deliver her staff report on this matter.
Yes, I am. Apologies, my computer has gone off in the meantime. So I am
One moment.
logging back on with our fancy 2-factor authentication.
Very secure.
Very secure, yes. Okay. Because I do have some maps and things to bring up, or Chad can move through some of those. Yes, so this is an application, as Aaron said, to rezone 595 Causby Road. That parcel, as you can see on the screen, is located immediately adjacent the I-40 off-ramp at the Causby Road exit 98 of the interstate interchanges. The property is currently zoned, I can go to the next map, EID, which is Exclusive Industrial District, and it also, as does all of the parcels in that area, have a Phase 2 stormwater overlay. The Phase 2 stormwater overlay, the purpose of that is to enforce the city's Phase 2 stormwater ordinance, and there is no change proposed to that overlay as part of this proposal. So I'll mention it now. It will continue to be part of the proposal, but I won't belabor that point throughout. So whatever happens with the rezoning, they would still be subject to those stormwater requirements, the same as any other parcel in that general locality. So the parcel is zoned that exclusive industrial district, and we'll get into in just a minute what more that means. The surrounding development, this is a map of the general surroundings. The parcels directly to the north and the east are owned by the city of Morganton, and they are also currently zoned, as we go back here, EID as well for that exclusive industrial district. As are all of the parcels across the street, and well, across the street both to the north and to the west. Obviously, I-40 borders the parcel to the south. You can see on this map here The parcels that are in the light yellow, and on this map you can see those are single-family homes in the medium intensity district. So homes kind of surrounded by this exclusive industrial area there. This is, for reference of the locals, the Greenworks production plant directly across the street. And then off of the on-ramp is Chain Drive that leads over to like the Caterpillar plant and Unix and those sorts of other industrial activities. And then further up Causby Road is larger lot and residential properties as well up through there, and larger lot being half acre or larger of those. So access to the site clearly off of Causby Road. That is the road that it borders. That road is an NCDOT road, so the city has no control over maintaining access over that road or what happens as far as accesses to that road, but any development of that would be subject to approval from DOT as to where any access or anything would be maintained to that and what the requirements of that would be. The site has the potential to be accessed with water and sewer. I'm looking at my maps here. Do I have that map? Hang on. Let me look back here. Utilities, sorry, I skipped over it. Here we go. So the blue line is water lines. The orange line that comes to about right here, if those you can see my arrow, is where the sewer line comes to, servicing this property. And then electric runs basically under that blue line all along through there, City Electric. So they have access to water and sewer. If any development that goes on that parcel will be required to extend the sewer to the property and to make any connections to get the water across the road to that property. So regardless of whether it is developed under EID or HID as is proposed, this next part, they're proposing to rezone it to HID, High Intensity District. They would be required to service it with all of those facilities and pay for those upgrades, et cetera. So the exclusive industrial district, directly from the zoning ordinance, established as a district intended to provide for manufacturing, warehousing, transportation, utility, and similar uses. And it actively discourages the growth of non-industrial development so that that land is preserved for industrial purposes. And when I go over in a moment the permitted uses in that zone, then you'll kind of see how that is scoped out in the ordinance. Alternatively, the high-intensity district says it's established to accommodate high-density residential, but more so a wide variety of civic, institutional, retail, service, and office uses along major arterials within the city to ensure those uses are attractive, functional, and do not have a harmful effect on adjacent neighborhoods or other commercial areas of the city. Essentially, the HID district is the city's major commercial zone. It does allow apartments, that higher density residential. It's not necessarily the focus of the zone. The major corridors in the city, whether it's West Fleming Drive, Carbon City Road, Jamestown Road, what is that, South Green Street, or North Green Street, sorry, South Sterling Street, those are all the high intensity district uses. So while residential is allowed there, we don't tend to see it as much as we do commercial uses, because commercial uses are not really allowed in any other zone, or are at a very limited scale when they're allowed in those other zones. So I mentioned the table of permitted uses, and I'm going to bring that up on the screen. Okay, let's make this bigger. I'm just looking at the screen. Can you guys see that now? Sort of, kind of. For the benefit of those in the audience that do not have a copy of that, can I get you to give them a copy of the report in general? That's the minutes from the last meeting. This is the report. So there are a variety of different uses in the, it's the whole thing, Rob.
It's a single,
Sorry, Rob. That's a
a-
single
It's all
document.
one unit.
That's one report. They need the whole thing. Sorry, coordination here. So permitted uses are things that are allowed by right, that if they meet the standards of the zoning ordinance, then they're allowed to do that thing. So if they meet the setbacks, if they meet the landscaping requirements and the parking requirements, the administration in the city can't say no to those things. So broken down into agricultural uses, and then you can see the overlay exceptions, which don't apply here because we don't have any overlays on this parcel. And then HID and EID. If there's a P in that column, it means you can do that thing if you, again, meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The limitations mean there might be some specific requirements about it. So for example, maybe if you have outdoor storage, you can have it, but you can't have it in the front yard. It has to be in the rear or side yard. So mainly what we're focusing on are those HID and EID columns. For agricultural uses, you can see that they're identical. No changes in that section. For residential uses, you can do residential uses in HID, but they are not allowed at all in the EID. Again, if we're talking about a heavy industrial district, we're not trying to put residences and things there. For civic, government, and institutional uses, those are things like schools and hospitals and libraries, post offices, those sorts of things. Most of those things are not allowed in the HID district, in the EID district, but are allowed in the HID district. And similarly for the office and service uses, there's a few things that would be allowed. Artist craftsman, for example, that might be a woodworking individual or something. Animal services with outdoor kennels where you might expect noise and things could be in either district. But then there are other uses like down here, the personal service uses, the medical offices, the professional offices, that's your accountant or your real estate person or something. Those are allowed in HID, but they're not allowed in EID. The retail and wholesale uses, so these are obviously where you're selling things. You can have motor vehicle sales there in EID, but you could not have a restaurant. You could not have any type of retail use in EID. And again, the purpose of that, as we heard with the statement about the purpose of the EID zone, is to make sure we have that land available for industrial uses. Let me flip and keep up on my paperwork here. This similar for recreational uses, there's not a lot of recreational uses that would be allowed in EID. You don't really want to attract the general public to EID because you may have a lot of tractor trailer trucks, you may have off-site noise, you may have off-site smells and things. So you're not necessarily saying we're going to have a campground beside of Case Farms or the carbon plant or something of that sort. But there may be a few uses that could be compatible in there. The big difference then where this flips is when you get to the industrial uses, naturally. There are a lot of uses that are permitted in EID that you could not do in HID. Obvious ones, so your asphalt plant. You can do that in EID, and if somebody came in and proposed that and it met the requirements, we couldn't say no. Distribution centers, that's kind of talking about, Amazon warehouse type scale things. Your junkyards, salvage yards, those sorts of things, you could do that in EID, but if it gets rezoned to HID, you can't put that there. For manufacturing, this is an interesting one. Manufacturing, processing, assembly, if it's inside a fully enclosed building, that could go in either zone. But if you're manufacturing or putting something together outside a building, so you're again expecting noise or smells or other potentially off-site impacts, you can do that in EID, but you can't do that in HID. A lot of the other stuff is the same. Power generation, wind production, probably less likely uses. The city's not going to, that I'm aware of, put a sewage treatment plant there, so we'll skip that one, or a water treatment plant. Warehouses, truck stops, telecommunication towers, All of those kind of things can go in either district. And then these other uses, the only difference is you couldn't put an ATM or an ice vending machine. I don't know if they still have movie vending machines. Probably not anymore. You couldn't put one of those in EID, but you could in HID. But other stuff, as I said, outdoor storage, those sorts of things, you could do in those zones. I think that for your density and dimensional standards, again, in the density, you can't do residential in EID, so there's no density there, that's 0. But then there is a certain density of residential if it was rezoned to HID that you could do. For non-residential uses, so those things like retail or warehouse or something, the difference is that there are greater setbacks in EID, and that's the distance that a building would have to be, so a building wall would have to be from a boundary. Not necessarily activity on the site, but a building wall. And there would be, you would still have required separation and buffers between any non-residential use and a residential use. Now, this parcel, again, is bordering, let's go back to that other map. That's the wrong map. There we go. Bordering other EID parcels at the moment. So it wouldn't be required to buffer because there's no residential right beside of it. But if there was, there would be buffers required to those. So if something was built, for example, on this parcel to the north, they would have certain buffer requirements adjacent to residential. And there are going to be buffer requirements for whether it's HID or whether it's EID. They would be narrower at HID, but then the expectancy of off-site impacts is probably less in HID than in EID. And if there are questions about that when we get to question time, let me know. The city's 2040 future land use plan does show this parcel as major industrial, which would typically involve those heavy industrial uses with those off-site impacts, as well as services and lighter industrial uses. So finding that picture, let me make that bigger for you. And I know that is very hard to see, but if we read the things at the top, desirable things, use appropriate is what it says down, less appropriate, sorry, is what it says down here at the bottom, and more appropriate at the top. So if you're in that major industrial category, they expected that things to be less appropriate were multifamily, or well, any kind of residential, office, retail, institutional, and really the only thing they're saying appropriate is heavy industrial. But for, sorry, I thought that would open up the next picture on my screen. For the, if it was saying that it was consistent with the HID zone, it would be this zone, and it would say, much as we discussed, that multifamily is an option, some other types of residential, but definitely office, restaurant, retail, institutional, but not those heavy industrial things that we talked about, like the asphalt plant or the junkyard. So, okay, Chad, we can just go back to me for a minute. So the proposed rezoning to HID would allow a greater variety of uses and then more limited or fewer off-site impacts. Assessment of those, yes, the proposed rezoning would be inconsistent with the Imagine 2040 future land use map, but it could be considered keeping in with the expected uses for the locality, because you'd still be able to have, for example, the Greenworks plant that's across the street there with no outdoor activity. You would also, a review of this part of the city has revealed potentially a lack of service uses for that industrial community in that area, and also potentially for the residential uses in that area. At this interstate interchange, there is no corner shop, there is no retail space. We have an abundance of industrial uses in that locality. So Chad, if you will go back to my screen. This is the parcel that we're talking about here. And so you have this plant, you go down Chain Drive, you've got these industrial uses, these factories, and then the Unix factory and things up here. There's really nowhere for those people to go have lunch if they don't go all the way into town. And they cannot do that on any of the EID parcels in that area. It would be a potential, and I'm not suggesting in any way that should one of the single-family homes want to turn into a restaurant or something, that they could. I'm hoping that they don't, because we need the housing. I respect people that live there, but that's the type of zone it would be allowed in. Likewise for smaller retail use or something of that sort. So we have identified that area is kind of lacking in those uses, and I will say from the process of developing the comprehensive plan, this corner was a corner we kind of agonized over of what should it look like in the future. And one of the reasons we didn't do a lot of changes in that area, or we did change the city parcel to larger lot residential potentially, and to this is because it's not serviced at the moment. It doesn't have the water and sewer servicing, and the developer would be required to bring that in. And we didn't know what the likelihood of that may or may not be until the developer proposes to do something there, until there would be an anticipated project and we could see what that might be. So the staff's assessment is that rezoning to HID could see development that's in keeping with the other industrial development that is along Causby Road at the moment in this locality. Greenworks plant specifically, maybe not some of these others, but definitely portions of them. And it could give development that would not be incompatible, let me reverse that could be compatible with residential areas. There may be some concern that some of the heavier industrial uses that could be allowed there are maybe not as nice for the neighboring residential uses as they could be. And again, the city is not able to control that if somebody came in with a complaint. Somebody came in tomorrow and said, we want to put a junkyard here, and they met all the setbacks, we have to say yes. And whether or not, and if they had machinery and things that were loud, we couldn't say no to that. That is, however, for the developers or whomever to decide. It could be a retail use, it could be an office, it could be any of those types of things. Applicant will speak to you in a minute about that, but it is staff assessment that zone HID could also make sense here, that again, a restaurant or retail might provide benefits to both the industrial community there, the local residents, as well as just people traveling up and down I-40 of that. We believe that it's unlikely to have potential impact to the surrounding roads because you're immediately adjacent to I-40, so 90% of that traffic is people coming off, if it was developed, it would probably be people getting off of I-40 and then getting back onto I-40. There's going to be some traffic that goes into town. I did look up the DOT, AADT numbers for the daily traffic on that road, and you get about 1,200 cars right around this property, but you only get 900 cars at the other end of Causby Road, which is their 2 points, but where Causby comes into Conley there. So you're dropping 300 cars. There's 300 cars that are going just basically up to Greenworks and stuff and back, or into these other developments and back. So the majority of the traffic seems to be still happening there around the interstate, and we could probably expect that pattern to continue. Again, want to reiterate that Causby Road, not just I-40, but Causby Road itself is a DOT road, and any potential impacts on traffic on that street, what any driveway entrances would look like, where they're located, any turn lanes that would be required, et cetera. DOT will assess those at the time of a development proposal for that and make sure that it meets DOT standards, and the city will not issue a zoning permit to develop anything on the site until we have a DOT driveway permit approval that is in conjunction with what such normal city standards would be if it was on a city street as well. And also implementation of any of those recommended upgrades would typically be at a developer's cost. That also includes speed limits, any of those kind of things for that road. Again, water, sewer, utilities, to any parcel there would be responsibility of developer to bring to that site. If not already there beside of it. Again, water and sewer, or water and electric are there, but across the street, so it'd have to be extended across. And then sewer is a little bit down the road over there. So it is the staff's recommendation that while the proposal is technically inconsistent with future land use map, that rezoning of that site to HID could be considered in keeping with those expectations of nearby development, needed development along the I-40 corridor, and that those permitted uses in zone HID may be more compatible with those nearby residential developments and better serve both that local and wider community than maybe a heavy industrial use. And we think that those impacts to traffic or else could be mitigated through the requirements of DOT there. What questions do you have?
Great.
You can ask.
Thank you, Wendy. Does anyone on the commission have any questions for Wendy about that information? Okay, since we don't have any from the board at the moment, I'm now going to open it up to the public. So if there's anyone who would like to speak on behalf of the development, if the developer's here, if you want to come to the podium, and please state your name and address for the record, and then share what you would like to share about the proposal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Robert Bigelow with XBR Ventures here representing 595 Causby Road LLC. Our address right now is 595 Causby Road in Morganton, North Carolina. So as far as that's concerned, we have everything forwarded to our office also in Charlotte at 301 South College. So thank you for giving me the time to talk about this tonight. XBR represents two large national fuel retailers in looking at North Carolina. And when we started coming out here about a year and a half ago and identifying traffic patterns throughout the entire state and looking at the interstate specifically, we were working and really focusing directly on the idea of finding areas for truck stops. One of the things we noticed early on in our analysis of the interstate corridors in North Carolina was really genuinely, and for a state that has 5+ interstates interconnecting throughout the state, to include major east-west 40, major north-south 95, the lack of actual truck stops in the state was really something. And so I'm actually from the Austin, Texas area, and I know that you guys have recently inherited Buc-ee's. So that Buc-ee's, of course, is an anomaly, 74,000 square feet. We're not talking about Buc-ee's here. But it was really something to see, just the kind of the shortage on the corridors. And when you're pulling down, and I'm preaching to the choir here, and you see trucks that are parked on the ramps because they don't have a place to park. They don't have enough truck stops to really feasibly manage the truck traffic coming through, and understanding that most of the trucker patterns when they're coming into a municipality, as vibrant as Morganton with your industrial, your manufacturing base, everything else, they kind of like to stop on the periphery before they actually get into the downtown corridors. Obviously they can do that, but if they have the chance to stop there, fuel up, shower, do whatever they're going to do, and have a place to actually stop and park over the night or whatever. And of course, as we all know, the drive times, and once they've hit their limit, they have to stop. And a lot of these trucks they're calculating out where can we stop based on our drive time. So when we look at the lack of suitable truck stops going to the west, going to the east, this became a very key location based on future growth in the area, future traffic demands. And when we're looking at traffic counts upwards of 50,000 plus on Interstate 40 out there, and we're looking at the actual traffic that will probably only increase due to the continued development in the city of Morganton itself, and the ability to have trucks have a viable access and ingress-egress point prior to or actually exiting Morganton. It's a genuinely a great location. So that's why we put it under contract. We've already closed on the property. We now own it, and we came in and started with the city here probably I want to say it was a couple months ago, where we came in and started meeting with city staff and brought the DOT in early on to talk about ingress-egress points. We work with both JM Teague, our traffic engineer, and Kimley Horn our civil engineering firm out here. And so it just became a suitable location, and as part of this, not only with the truck stop, making it more of kind of a travel center to include a QSR, quick service retail, possibly coffee stop, so that people had the ability to not only just come in there and service the vehicular, what I would call the passenger vehicular traffic, but the truck traffic as well. And so that's the reason we're requesting the rezoning to HID, so that we can accommodate another quick service retail facility as well as probably a coffee facility on the site in tandem with the truck stop proposal. I know what you've seen, what we've laid out so far is the proposal, because we're not anywhere near close to actually, coming in with an actual finished plan, but we wanted to give you an idea of what we're considering there, so.
Chad, can you bring that plan that Robert provided up, or I can, if I can find it? There you go.
And as you can see, we, in our preliminary assessments with NCDOT and JMT, we wanted to make sure that we were, adequately off the ramp head to go ahead and have a good ingress egress point, which actually, brings in sewer and water and everything else to the adjoining parcel, and certainly goes ahead and accommodates both passenger and truck traffic. And so, as we're proposing 1 or 2 sites to the north, on the north side of the ingress egress point, and keeping the truck traffic primarily in the other passenger vehicle traffic to the south, in between the interstate itself and the entry point. So when trying to actively stay away from the curve there, so we can maintain line of sight and accel, decel, and everything else. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is 16 parking spots for semi-trucks big enough? Is that?
Well, that's one of the things we're going to be resizing. That's a very good point, because based on the truck traffic that we think we're going to have there, we're going to have to expand that.
So you'd cut back on the 129 other parking spots?
Correct.
And change it to truck parking?
That's, yeah, correct. Yeah.
That wouldn't necessarily not be a 1-for-1.
No.
Right,
Just-
exactly, that would not be, so.
Just-
And as we've discussed, this is all subject to coming in, meeting with staff, coming back to the city with plans that will work, so.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay. Seeing none at this time. Thank you so much for your sharing. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Are there any other folks in the audience who are interested in speaking in support?
We did have one submission emailed to us from someone that wasn't able to be here tonight. So if it's okay with the commission, I'll read that on their behalf. And then, in case that anyone concurs or not, we won't duplicate stuff. So this is submitted by Roy Ashkenaz. Roy, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Chad, if you can put up my screen just for a moment. Roy lives at this property here at 567 Causby Road. And then again, this is the property we're looking at over here. So Roy says, I am sending this email to you to address my concerns related to the 595 Causby Road rezoning meeting scheduled for Thursday, January 8, 2026 for the proposed zoning change from EID to HID. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend this meeting. I own a house on Causby Road, which is 7 houses north of 595 Causby Road property. I have lived here for almost 4 years. With the rezoning request, we, my neighbors and I, are very concerned that the approval of the rezoning request would cause a lot of additional traffic, vehicles and semi-trucks that would be traveling on Causby Road, which would cause excessive speeding issues as well as extreme safety issues. There are no sidewalks on this road. Many folks walk and bike on this road. There are children and elderly folks living in the houses on this road. When I first moved to Causby Road about 4 years ago, I was alarmed at the large number of speeding vehicles as well as excessive semi-truck traffic on Causby Road. Radar has clocked 90% of all vehicles on this road exceeding 35 miles per hour posted speed limit. Many semi-trucks speed through on this road, and some actually get stuck due to the curvy nature of Causby Road. There are 35 mile per hour speed limit signs posted, as well as a sign that says large trucks not recommended going north past the Greenworks warehouse, which are basically ignored by drivers. After I first moved to Causby Road, I contacted and discussed my safety concerns about the speeding cars and semi-truck traffic to the Morganton Public Safety Office, Burke County Sheriff's Department, and the North Carolina Highway Patrol. While I was very satisfied with their very quick responsiveness and solutions, as noted below, there is still a high number of speeding vehicles on this road, as well as a seemingly increase in semi-truck traffic. With a 3-day, there's a question mark, radar sampling of 6,522 vehicles, 3,913 were clocked at under 45 miles per hour, and 2,609 were clocked over 45 miles per hour. There were 300 vehicles clocked over 55 miles per hour, with 9 vehicles exceeding 70 miles per hour. Traffic speed radar indicated that 90% of the traffic was above the posted speed limit of 35 miles per hour. From those radar results, additional 35 mile per hour signage was quickly installed, but the only times we see reduced speeding is when a PSO vehicle is seen on Causby Road. Sadly, this is a very rare occurrence, understandably, and very seldom have I seen a sheriff department vehicle or state highway patrol vehicle monitoring traffic speeds on this road. I have suggested traffic calming devices, such as speed bumps, installed on Causby Road, but was told that this could not be done due to state regulations. I have suggested additional signage installed to change the large trucks not recommended to large trucks not allowed, but this has not occurred. I believe the relatively heavy semi-truck traffic on Causby Road is due to GPS routing rather than truck driver shortcuts. Many of these trucks exit off of Highway 40 but do not deliver to the Greenworks warehouse, i.e., I don't blame Greenworks for the heavy semi-truck traffic on Causby Road. Feel free to contact me for any additional clarifications, etc. Thank you, Roy Ashkenaz, 567 Causby Road. And those of you on the commission have that in your packet. And if I could also bring up, he included this speed enforcement sheet that was provided by Morganton Public Safety. That is the amount of vehicles over the posted speed limit and the different lanes on those. So I just wanted to read that on Roy's behalf, as he was unable to be here tonight. And then, yes, back to Aaron and anyone else that might to speak.
Thank you, Wendy. If there's anyone else in the audience who would like to speak, they are welcome to do so at this time. If you'd please just, if you don't mind coming to the podium, just so we can hear you. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. And if you could just state your name and your address. Thank you.
My name is Bruce Elder. My address is 515 Causby Road. I didn't get a notice of this or let you know formally I wanted to speak. I don't know, we've lived on that road for about 25 years, and then my family had been there for about 75 years. But twice in the last, 10 years, a semi-truck has gotten jackknifed and took out infrastructure because once it gets to the bottom of Causby Road, it has nowhere to go. And at one time, it knocked out the internet, clean out to the truck Chrysler place, I believe. So the trucks get down there and they panic. I don't think Mr. Roy was right. The GPS may be routing them that way. But it would be a concern that if you had, 20 or 30 more trucks a day or more, that there are going to be more people doing that and damaging our infrastructure and disrupting the lives of people that live out there. So, while I respect Mr. Bigelow's right to do what he wants to on his land, I hope that the council will see fit to maybe not provide him with this opportunity. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Welcome to do so.
Hi there. I'm his wife. I'm Gretel. So, Elder. My concerns are environmentally. I know they've looked at this site multiple times, and the city owns the land behind it. And I know that there was issues with it perking, as well as there is a underground stream that heads right there, comes to the head, and starts, and it feeds Silver Creek Spring. So my question would be, what would be the environmental impact on that spring, because it is so small? But it feeds a lot of, farms on down the river. So we want to make sure that's there, and that's being looked at, that it's not just disregarded.
Wendy can respond to you.
So, Chad, if you put my screen back up, maybe? Oh, let's zoom in on that, sorry. This blue line here. Sorry, you cannot see that on the screen at all. I will run my.
I can see it.
You can see it, right? But it is the line that runs down behind the houses, across through here, across the corner of the city property, and kind of, the blue line dead ends in here. Any development will be required to locate that stream. I should know this off the top of my head. I know in our watershed ordinance, there's a required 100-foot buffer off the top of the bank of any stream, and I believe it would be similar in the stormwater ordinance that is subject to this. I will look that up before the end of this meeting here. But there would be required buffers off of that stream where you wouldn't be allowed to touch or to move that stream. The only thing that would be allowed would be a crossing of that stream if you needed a bridge or something to actually get to the other part of the property. So in terms of the parking, any of that development, as we said, would have to be connected to actual sewer, not septic development in this area for those pieces.
I worry more so about the petroleum coming off the trucks and the diesel that's being filled in the trucks, the overspills, and then the rain washing that down into that area, regardless of whether it's going directly into the stream, but also as it is washed in the rain runoff, is going to push those petroleums into those streams. The factory across from us on Causby Road, if you go down to the stream that's behind it, it is running red at this point. It is red. The water is red. So I don't know where that's coming from, if it's Greenworks or if it's the other plants that are on the other backside of that. Don't know that EPA's been called, but I know they've also timbered a lot of that land behind there. So, I just worry that these are small streams. They can't take a lot of petroleum pushed into them, or it's just going to completely destroy them. And I do know there's cattle that get those streams on down the road, and will they still be able to use those streams if they have to water those farms?
I'm trying to find the exact number of riparian, or the exact portions of riparian buffers there for you. There would be stormwater requirements and to capture that runoff and to feed it into a specific location. Rather than that, I am making a note now about the stream that you have noted for our stormwater administrator on the other side, to investigate that, because we do have a stormwater administrator for the city that's their role to go and look into those things. So we will make sure that we look into that piece in particular. And probably 95% of the city is covered by our watershed ordinance. And then this little section up at the end of Causby Road and a little bit of Glen Alpine is the stormwater ordinance. So forgive me, I'm not as across that one as I am some of the others. I do know that there are buffers required around the stream that they cannot touch. I am not 100% sure of the extent of those buffers, whether it is that 30 or 100 feet. I don't know if the applicant has looked
Wendy,
into that.
on their site plan, it does show 50-foot stream buffers.
Okay, so it may be different in the stormwater area versus the watershed of those. That being said, I should probably clarify, the city has not approved any of this. We only received it when you guys received it a day or two ago, so please do not take this as this is what is going to happen on the site. There's going to be a lot of work that would have to be done before this occurred. And as I do at every Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, I remind the members of the commission that while the applicant may have a proposal, you're looking at that list of uses, and should they win the lottery and they all live in the Bahamas tomorrow, somebody could do one of those other things that's listed in that list of permitted uses in the HID column on that. So if it turns out it's 50, that's great. If it turns out it's 100, we do that. If it turns out it's 25, it would do that. But there are requirements, and we do have a stormwater administrator. You're required for the stormwater control measure. They must now register an easement and operational and maintenance plan, OEMP. That also has to be registered with the Register of Deeds for them to maintain that over time. That is not something that happened in the past. Definitely not when the factory across the street was developed. But that is something that we try to keep on top of. And I do encourage anyone in the community here, anyone watching, if you do see anything in the stormwater that is of a concern, Stormwater administrator would be very eager to look into any of those.
The plan across the road.
That's right. So I wrote that down. Gave you as well. We've got that on the list, and we'll make sure that he is aware of that first thing tomorrow morning. If anyone is interested in the the Phase 2 stormwater requirements, Chad, if you go back to my screen. Maybe? Me? No? Maybe? Okay. If you Google City of Morganton ordinances, you go to the ordinances, and you go down to Part 9, Planning and Development Regulations. Chapter 8 is Phase 2 Stormwater. So it's 9-8. Encourage anybody to look at those, and it is a legal document. Louis Case, some of our other lawyers in here may understand it better than those of us that deal with it every day. Happy to meet with anybody and discuss what those requirements are as well, and if there are any concerns with those, happy to review those. We will be also, this is jumping ahead to the other business part of this meeting, but we are embarking on a process beginning next month, well, really in March, of reviewing our stormwater ordinance and making sure that it's up to the latest standards as well, and encourage public input on that process. If you do see anything in here that you think should be amended or be different, or that you still have concerns about, definitely encourage you to bring that up during the public consultation periods on that ordinance itself as well. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that everybody knew where the stream was that she was talking about. So continue, please. Yes.
An additional concern I had was, like my husband had said, I have been personally ran off of Causby Road by tractor trailers coming around those curves, those 90-degree curves. You have to stop, you have to back up. You have to let the tractor trailer clear the curb before you can come around it. And I have come through there at night, in the mornings around, I would say, 8 o'clock, right after the school buses go by. You'll have a traffic jam of the tractor trailers right there at the plant, the Greenworks plant, trying to get in. They must be driving all night, coming off the interstate, and they're loaded up, and you have to go around them to get into our own home. So, you're moving and having to create a traffic violation just to get around the trucks because they're having to wait on permission or inspection or whatever it is to get into Greenworks. So add additional trucks on that ramp, add additional volume on that ramp. I don't know what it'll end up being like. Causby Road can't handle that type of traffic, in my opinion. I would like to see what the plans are as far as changing those traffic patterns to see if we can accommodate it to where it's not going to be, one, a safety issue of me or my children driving home and having to meet a tractor trailer head on coming around one of those curves in the event that they get lost.
Ma'am, may I just interrupt to ask a question?
Yes,
I'm a
sir.
little bit confused. Maybe I'm not as familiar with this as I thought. Obviously, any development here is going to increase the traffic off of I-40, and obviously, there's a lot of trucks that go to Greenworks. Are you saying there's a lot of trucks on Causby Road beyond
Yes, sir.
Greenworks?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's probably, if I had to give you a number, I'd say 5 a day go past Greenworks. They miss it. They miss the chain link drive.
Okay,
So
okay,
they
that
either
makes sense.
Their English is not good enough
I
to
was-
fix it.
I was concerned that you were saying, because I
No.
couldn't imagine many trucks using that
No,
road.
no, and they don't know where
beyond
they're at, and that's the problem. They've taken the transformers. We've had 2 tractor trailers catch on fire in I guess 15 years? Probably, we've lived 4 places on Causby Road, so, so in our life together, right? We like Causby Road, but any rate, so yes, we've had 2 transformers catch on fire where the tractor trailers tried to do I guess 120-degree turn, going back on right there on Conley Road. They took out the entire power poles there. Vice versa, the first curve you come to where you're talking about this piece of property, that first curve is not banked. There's no bank on it. So when they're coming around that curb, they're coming short, and you have to stop if you meet them, or you will hit their undercarriage.
Robert, have you had any discussions with DOT that might address some of those concerns for the portion of that in front of your property?
Not as of yet. J&T, our traffic engineer, has been in discussions with the DOT group out here for this particular region. They're still finishing the traffic studies.
Okay.
So we would hopefully have those in the next 30 days.
Okay. and that would be something, again, that we would make sure they adhere to, and if that's a center turn lane has to be put in, or anything of that sort, obviously for their development, not Greenworks.
Right.
That would be something the city would make sure they had to do as part of that development.
Right.
I do just want to mention that a truck stop, if we're concerned about semi-trucks, is allowed in either zone. It's the retail or restaurant uses that would be additionally allowed if it went to HID. So the truck stop portion that Robert mentioned is able to be there even in the existing zone.
Right.
But there are still those safeguards about the development of that. But the retail and restaurant uses, which I acknowledge may also have semi-trucks of their own, delivering, would be the difference if it was rezoned to HID for
Right.
those spaces. But definitely, I'm writing all this down.
All right, last thing is in the event that we are going to have a truck stop, I understand progression, I understand, life is changing. I would ask also that we are given more police patrol and alertness of those areas because of what those areas also bring with crime and solicitation. And that's it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? I don't know when you know this, but if there's like other concerns around the traffic patterns and sounds like some narrowness in that road's a problem. That's not a city issue, is that?
It's not a
Department of
State road.
Transportation?
It's the Department of Transportation issue because they own the road.
I see.
Yeah,
The city patrols
yeah.
DOT roads and would be the ones giving the tickets there. I know that Mr. Ashkenazi said he didn't see the sheriff's deputies and things out there. It's not their jurisdiction for that. So and that's definitely something that can be raised with the Public Safety Department.
Yeah.
It took 10 years to get a sign saying this is not the right way.
Now, those signs are DOT signs, so any
Right,
of the
because they argue
infrastructure
back and
pieces
forth of city,
of
DOT,
those.
county. You can't get anybody
there's
to
also
take
we
the
would like
road.
them to do, that they don't.
Yeah.
But in terms of the infrastructure of the road is up to DOT.
Yeah.
In some cases, DOT does make you do infrastructure changes beyond the scope of your development. I don't know what their requirements are here. It sounds like that this team is in the process of discussing those with DOT, but there is a possibility that they would say, you don't have enough sight lines there, you need to shave off that first curb. Or, now, whether, they're probably not gonna make them do something at, say, Conley and Causby. That's really
McDowell
far
made
away.
theirs
But
do a double lane off the interstate. When you
That-
look at Love's exit, they have a double lane off interstate, and that was one of their requirements. They also had to have a turning lane installed and have curb and guttering on both sides of it and be able to exit two ways with
So,
Love's.
again, I'm not sure if those are things that have been discussed with you guys or not, or if you're,
They're in discussion right now.
okay,
What they might require.
yes. And the city supports what DOT asked for, and in some cases, just as a warning, we go beyond that and say, hey, this doesn't look like it's gonna function to us.
Right.
This doesn't look, and we have asked for additional improvements on top of that, and DOT usually works together with us to make those happen. Sometimes we get overruled.
Right. Well, considering there's a 40-acre tract that's less than a quarter mile from that site that has been looked at multiple times for multiple housing, for
Yes.
apartment complexes as well. If they're gonna develop this area, they need to go ahead and get it developed and get the road and infrastructure there so that it can support it healthy, that it's not just through together and not planned.
Completely
That's what
agree.
we would ask for, is a well-planned program to make it nice and for everybody that lives there and then the ones to come.
Most definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there, I guess my question is, I'm wondering what triggers, other than a new development, if there's an identification, there is a lot more traffic, these factories become much busier, there's a lot more semis there, how does that?
I suppose raising it with the local, sorry, I almost got too close, with the local NCDOT office and asking for those assessments, similar to what it looks like Mr. Ashkenaz did with the city.
Yep.
I am imagining that if that is what we found there, we would have had more patrols in that area. But he is probably correct that if there is not a police car sitting there, somebody's still gonna speed.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised they could get up to
Yeah.
90
That's-
or so on that road.
Scary. It's pretty scary.
But, you know, people are, they don't follow the rules with that. But there are definitely things that asking DOT to assess those. Would like to emphasize, the city does not always have success with spurring them to move as quickly as we would like on those pieces. There's a couple places we've been asking for a stop sign for
Yeah.
as long as I've worked here. And they've said, yes, it's coming on that. So we don't have control over it, but yes, definitely petitioning the Marion office for District 13 there is the one that looks after this, is something. And a couple of these things we will be mentioning the next time we meet with DOT, now that we've heard them from the public. Because if we don't, they're like us, if we don't know they exist,
Sure.
we can't address them. I don't know what they know exists in this area, but we will raise it with them as well.
Okay, that's great.
As can any members of the public as well, so.
I was going to say, I think another point that has been raised is truckers are missing, it's hard to believe as big as it is, but they're missing the Greenworks entrance. Because I guess it's not properly, not sufficiently signed. Yeah, because they're just
You
reading off
mean they're
their.
missing, they're not turning on
the
Chain
GIS.
Drive?
No,
Because Chain Drive comes off, so Chad,
Yeah.
go back to my
Yeah.
thing. I believe what she's saying is that people come off and they don't realize that Chain Drive goes down through here off of the
Okay.
on-ramp.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a bad,
So they haven't turned on to the, because you're not expecting that road to be off the on-ramp
Yep.
of that. I know that DOT wants to change all of those
yeah, they don't
alignments.
want those anymore.
Very
understandably.
expensive and long-term process. I do know that Greenworks has a fence there.
They will not let them in to turn around.
And, okay, so they won't let them in to turn around. I'm just wondering if they have enough stacking area themselves to allow their own trucks to come off, and if maybe that's a discussion that could be addressed with them as well. So,
4 is the most that they can stack.
no, that it looks like they could only stack one.
They can, right there, you can only have one.
Oh, I see, you've seen up to 4, blocking the road.
They're in the road still.
Okay.
So that's something that,
These are problems.
I think can be looked at and addressed. Again, I don't know if they would make the area between the interstate interchange and any driveway for the development at 595 have a center turn lane or not. Whether or not that continues past their property in either direction would also be something that DOT looks at. And if it could benefit Greenworks, or if Greenworks was required to come to the table at that same point in time, that's definitely something that could be discussed. I think.
Unfortunately, I don't see how they can make Greenworks, which has already been there for years, change
No.
anything.
Unless they're having problems themselves and they agree to it.
Which that's a different,
But if
Yeah.
they're, I mean, does a development like this sometimes like spark the involvement of DOT where previously they just were like ignoring it? But if there's a new development, now they're forced to kind of examine a bit
but
more.
that's gonna put the
Potentially.
burden
Sure.
on the
I'm
new
just-
developer, not on
Sure.
the existing
I
business.
mean, unless Greenworks were to say, hey, yeah, we'll throw in some money for this.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah,
not.
yeah.
I bet.
But, but I also have been surprised by developments that have said similar. So I'm not gonna say they're not, haven't worked with them very often, on that, so that could be a possibility. I don't know, I think, it was roughly halfway between the property is kind of what you've shown on this drawing here. Yeah, right, where this kind of jog in the property line is. So it may be that there are, if there were any trucks coming from or not just trucks, but passenger vehicles, because again, if we're talking about a fast food restaurant or something, it may be that DOT requires a center turn lane in both directions there. Whether it gets all the way around to the Greenworks entrance, not sure. Of that, I'm not a traffic expert, but they have a traffic engineer that is assessing that and working with DOT on those pieces, so, yes.
Greenworks is subletting out that facility out. Initially, that was a Drexel Heritage Plant. And then it sold, and now it's being subletted out. It's different. So we've got Greenworks in addition to other Amazon parked in there, these other trucks. Multiple trucks are coming in
Okay.
and housing, warehousing
Yep.
Okay. Good to know.
Speaking of term, but that looks like Bigelow's entrance is gonna be around that blind curve.
Well, this is, it's just a sketch.
So,
Site triangles
oh,
are
go on.
addressed by DOT when they do the driveway permit.
So the site triangles would be addressed by so it's what is shown on the plan they've given. Again, don't know if that's what DOT is going to approve. The entrance is roughly here. Because DOT will require it to be a certain distance from that exit off the interstate for stacking distances and things. If there's an issue with this curve, they may require them to make adjustments to that curve. Or at a minimum, vegetation or
There'll be less trees.
slope or something that is happening there. Obviously, if they've cleared all of these trees for development, there's not as much of a problem on this part of the curb there may be. And I don't know what DOT would make them do there, but I think they want it to be safe in those areas. In other projects that I've worked on with DOT, they have made comments of that and they have had requirements there for that. But they have their certain formulas and distances and stuff from curves of that sort and what they need to do for site distances. Again, encourage you guys to talk to DOT about concerns, and the developer, I'm sure, would be happy to, if they are able to do this proposal or any proposal, because again, there are things that can be done on that property. And then there, you guys get together after the meeting and chat about how to keep kept informed about any of those. Because you guys own the property now? So whether it's this development or another development, again, whether it gets rezoned or not and something goes there, we like to encourage everyone to work together in those processes. Other questions?
Are there any other folks in the public who'd like to speak? Great.
Good evening. I'm Tim Williamson. I live at 585, the first house that you would encounter. Mine's a couple different parts. We already have problem with like the truck drivers for Greenworks. They throw trash out, so we're constantly cleaning our yards, and that's one issue. That curb is actually my biggest issue because at least once a week, somebody runs off the road and cuts through our yard. The old sign that was there is laying over now, and you can see tire tracks where somebody just clipped it and kept going, and they left part of their fender. We actually will not park two cars in our driveway usually because it's too much of a risk. We have had to drive around the Rutherford electric access so we could get out because the tractor trailers will block us completely in when we're leaving for work in the morning. So my biggest issue is really just a blind curb because at any time we are subject to see somebody just run off the road and try and take out half of our property. So
Is there a ditch along the road in front of your house?
it divots a little bit and then there's kind of a dirt wall, but they can actually hit up and above it. And once you get past that little curb, there's nothing. It's all flat now. So once you see where our property
can-
starts, it's all flat.
I can show you, Chad, we've got so there's a little bit of a divot here is what he's talking about, but then
Oh, I
Yes.
you
see
can
it.
see how their yard is very nicely maintained
And
and
if you can
flat.
see, my other truck and my camper is actually around back. We only put two cars and our daughter drives, so there should be three up front, but it's actually too much of a risk to put the third car there most times. And you can see where they run off the road all the time, right in front of our house, where all the grass is gone.
Does anyone know how wide the right-of-way is for that road?
I can measure.
I'm wondering how far it extends into your grass there. If it does.
It probably does.
On the map, it shows it, but
Yes.
I don't trust that.
I mean, I would like to say that this is Burke County GIS, and we base our GIS maps off of this, and both of us consider them a suggestion. You need actual surveyors to make sure
Yeah.
that this is actually correct. But in that note, between these yellow lines
Yeah,
is the
unfortunately,
right-of-way.
it
And
shows
that's
it-
60 feet roughly, but then the right-of-way actually goes
way up
a
your
significant
driveway.
portion through
Yeah,
what it functions as yard for individuals there. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's anything that DOT could address with that at the
I don't know.
moment.
I think
I
that's
don't
gonna be a
know.
problem if your front there is within, if this is even remotely right, it's really within the public right of way anyway. That's gonna limit what you can do.
Again, I would look to Robert and say, has DOT mentioned anything about the blind curve or anything at this point?
No, they have not mentioned anything on the line of sight. As you said, they've got their own calculations. Each state DOT has their own. So whatever they instruct us to do, we will.
So they would wait on a proposal and respond to that proposal for that? Okay.
This was simply, as I said earlier, a projection of what we were discussing. I remember having an economics professor tell me a projection is only as good as the day it's given it back. So this was just, we were trying to give an indication of what we were looking at.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Want to give space for anyone else? Okay. Seeing no additional public comments, we're going to close the public comment time. And then, as far as the commission is concerned, does anyone else have any questions or discussion they'd like to partake in?
I'd like to address their concerns.
Please.
One of the problems we have as a board, or as a recommended thing, is we are just approving a total category. Now, I mean, you talk about water runoff, that scares the hell out of me, you know? But on the other hand, right now, the way you're zoned, they could put an asphalt plant there. Well, I've worked in the asphalt industry. Trust me, you don't want an asphalt plant there.
Or another Greenworks plant,
Yeah.
a little one.
I mean, literally,
No, well,
to a certain extent, the HID is more residential friendly than the current EID that you have.
And currently you can do a truck stop the way it sits
Yes,
right
you
now.
could do a truck stop.
Yeah, you could.
And what we're really debating is, well, actually, the only thing we're debating is what the total classification is that everything goes in there. Now, if we get to a specific, what we're saying is, do you have a truck stop that's just a truck stop? Or do you have a truck stop that could also have a retail portion to it, a quick stop? That's all we're really
Potentially a
debating here.
restaurant.
And you could also have a food place at that same location. I see their problems on Causby Road. Causby Road's got a lot of problems.
yeah.
I remodeled the Williams house, which was right down the road from them, and when I was there, a truck got stuck in that curve. And also, we built two houses at the front of Causby Road, and there was, in 1 week, on Monday and Thursday, I think, of the same week, trucks tried to make that left-hand turn off of Conley Road into Causby Road. It cannot be done. There was 2 of them pulled out in 1 week. And I asked that second guy, I said, why did you try to make that curve? He said, well, my GPS told me to go that way. And I said, that's crazy. And I think that DOT needs to hit, I'm for the rezoning because it will allow food in with the truck stop. I think the truck stop is given anyway, so there's nothing, it can be put in that industrial area. But I think it would be nice, I think it would be more residential friendly to have, it'd be great to have another Chick-fil-A or something there. You could stop in and get food on the way. I think the truck stop alone would be more detrimental than the truck stop with food. So that's just my opinion.
Can I just clarify something you said, Rick? When you said stuck in that curve, do you mean the curve at Greenworks or further down?
No,
Okay,
it's,
just clarifying.
There is like a horseshoe
Yes,
curve.
I just wanted to make sure, because we had just been talking about this
No,
blind curve,
this-
that it
this
wasn't
property
the same curve.
I see the problem on Causby Road, but it's not where maybe the trucks backing up is a problem, but the trucks on Causby Road, the curve and why they're down there, I have no earthly idea.
Because
GPS.
GPS directed them to
And
go
that's
there.
what
We're
they
talking
told
about
me. But I've
this
seen
curve,
3 trucks
the big
myself while
deep
we've been
curve here.
working.
There's no way that a
Yeah.
trucker familiar with Causby Road would be trying to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But they follow blindly their GPS because they're not from around here.
They can't even stop and ask for directions, but most of them are not speaking English.
That's-
They've tried to ask us, they turn around in our driveway as well.
But,
Frankly, you might be better off with the truck stop where you can get
well,
directions.
because they're not going to miss that when they turn off the interstate. But the problem is if they're coming the other way,
Yeah, they're making a right turn to 1,000 Chain Drive. They don't see 1,000 Chain Drive. That's what they're doing.
I hate those.
Is that?
Okay, I'm gonna pass you, this is our whole packet, and this shows you the approved uses for the different,
Oh,
She has
yeah. Well, no, we gave it to the people at the back, so,
yeah, well,
no,
here's an extra one. But this shows you.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I guess the only thing I'm just really interested in is a study.
How could you monitor, how could you adjust GPS so it tells truckers?
You have to go to Google Maps and get them to adjust it.
So I understand that there's a traffic issue here
Yep.
and everything.
If we can, guys, if we can try to have one conversation at a time, just so we can record that on the record. Thank you.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead, Eric.
understand there's a traffic issue, and I think that should be a separate topic with DOT if we can, I think, look at what we're supposed to do as a planning and zoning board and rezone this or not.
Yep, I would agree. It seems like we all, can we reopen the public comment if you have one more question? Can I do that, Jackie?
I think if it's up to you guys, I think it's okay.
yeah.
Sure, that's
By
fine. Yeah, that's fine.
consent.
Please come back up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
So the only thing I said to him, and as he was exchanging that information, was I would like to get an EPA on that creek before they start bulldozing. And then that way we have a good determinant of how much did it impact that creek. So in the future, as we have development, we'll see that and we can determine better how to be a better steward of our land and our properties so that we don't have to deny development, but we can help direct it in the best way for the land around it.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, maybe for the benefit of the group, if someone were to do something like a truck stop or a gas station, what environmental studies would that trigger if that was proposed?
So
Anything, or how does
any
that work?
development over 1 acre is going to be required to have erosion and sediment control plan
Okay.
from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. And that is another item that we make sure they have in place and have approved before the city will issue a zoning permit for that site. So that will be for during construction and so forth, and making sure how that is addressed. And then as part of that stormwater ordinance is where we make sure that any of the stuff that is being collected off of the site gets contained and then infiltrated or appropriately addressed or cleaned or whatever needs to happen depending upon what the expectation of it is before it goes into the stormwater system. And then that's where they're required to have that operational environmental management control plan that is monitored then by the city and by the state to make sure that they are in compliance with that plan long-term. And again, at any point, if there is a complaint, we have a stormwater administrator who goes out on multiple different potential complaints every day. Some of them are complaints, some of them are you put your leaves in the gutter and now your stormwater drain is blocked up. And some of them are, hey, maybe there's an industrial issue here. So that is how it is monitored. An example is at a car wash or something, they're required, so at a commercial car wash, they're required to collect all of that soapy water and everything before it just runs off into the system. Back if you built one in the 1960s, it's just going to drain off wherever. But today, it would not. As far as specific requirements for truck stops and heavy vehicle uses, I'm not as experienced with those, but given that these guys do truck stops all the time, they probably have some more information on the requirements for that. If you could just come up to the microphone so we get it on the recording.
So environmental audits are a very important part of everything we do from a development perspective. And so the firm that we use here in North Carolina is EnviroScience. They're based in Asheville. As a matter of fact, we'll be with them tomorrow. And Clement Riddle is the person that leads that for us. So we do a full environmental audit because the DEQ is extremely, on top of things as far as what they want to see. To attenuate what we would call gray water from the site, something that might be slightly contaminated. We have individual collection points that the runoff is not allowed to go into the surrounding area. It's collected there and it's then dealt with in the underground storage facilities. So anything that might be tainted is dealt with on site. So, and certainly with the DEQ requirements, I don't think we're going to see anything basically pluming or infiltrating off the site.
You may have said this in your first presentation, but I noticed in the original very preliminary sketch that was submitted with the application for the rezone, it showed a stormwater, what they call it, stormwater control measure, looked like a pond. But you're saying this preliminary design now would have an underground
Would
storage
use underground
instead?
storage, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I figured that was what it
No,
was,
no,
but I wanted
that's
to
all
make
right.
sure.
So, okay,
That's helpful, thank you.
thanks.
Is there any other discussion from the commission? I appreciate Eric's point, I agree. It sounds like there's a real concern and a problem with the traffic on this road. That's unfortunately outside of sort of our jurisdiction, but I do think that it's possible that as this development is happening, that's going to trigger their engagement. They're going to have to start taking a look, and we hope that that's an opportunity, it sounds like, for the public to be able to speak with them. The city's going to be engaged with them if they are doing this development, so hopefully that opens up some meaningful changes on that road, because they sound like they're much needed.
This may be a political matter worth talking to legislators
Yeah.
about.
I think I can say that the city will speak to them about this regardless of what happens with this parcel. And also address anything that might be relevant to us on any of our roads in that area that might be of assistance, as well as the creek issue that was mentioned.
Would it be possible for the city to speak with Greenworks about where they store trucks before hours?
Again, it's not our
DOT,
road,
right, DOT,
so
I
we
guess,
can
should do
recommend that DOT do that, or we can ask that DOT speak to Greenworks about that. But we can't control what happens
Sure, I
on that road.
Well, we
We
accept
can-
to the extent that it's a public safety issue.
Right,
That's
kind
the
of-
only argument that we would have.
I mean,
We
I'm
don't-
looking at the pictures we looked at and where the fencing and things are. Now, they do have a gatehouse there. Clearly, they're probably wanting to check you in and out at the gatehouse. So relocating that brick structure is a little bit
move the gate
different
back.
than, I mean, they'd have to move that too. But in terms of moving the fence so that people could potentially queue elsewhere, seems to me like something we could have a discussion about on there.
Right.
If not, you must stagger delivery times. of
That's
that.
really what I was framing it as.
Yeah.
is it's a safety issue. You know, when people can't get out of their own driveway, certainly. And that's something that I know we don't have any control over, but DOT would.
Yes, that's why I'm making notes on everything.
Right.
I said here, sounds like we're having another chat with DOT tomorrow as well.
Excellent. I thank everyone for their participation and sharing that information. It's very helpful for everyone involved, and seems like we have now some action items for that. As far as the motion is concerned for this evening in the proposed changing of the zoning, would anyone like to motion or not? In support or not in support of that?
I'll propose a motion in support.
Okay.
So I got to read this.
Yes, please.
The Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Council support for the proposed rezoning of 595 Causby Road, PIN number 177-233-5858, shown on the Imagine Morganton 2040 Comprehensive Future Land Use Map as major industrial land from zone exclusive industrial district with Phase 2 stormwater overlay to zone high intensity district with Phase 2 stormwater overlay. And the proposal is considered reasonable for the following reasons. The potential for development of the site with general commercial uses as permitted under high-intensity district will fulfill a community need for service uses in the locality and could also serve as travelers, as is common in interstate interchanges. Also, permitted uses in the exclusive industrial district include uses that could have potential off-site impacts that would not be favorable to adjacent to existing residential dwellings, and the locality will now be prohibited in the high intensity district. Manufacturing, processing, and assembly uses similar to surrounding uses will continue to be permitted in the high intensity district. Utility and traffic impacts from future development can be managed at the time of development and are not expected to create any issues for existing community. And preserving the Phase 2 stormwater overlay will ensure the continued application of the city's Phase 2 stormwater ordinance for the property. The proposed rezoning is inconsistent with the future land use map, and support of the proposal will result in an amendment to the future land use map.
Thank you for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye. Any in objection? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you all for that discussion and debate. Okay. Okay, yes, so now this will go as a recommendation to the city council, and then that's going to be happening on February 2nd at 6 p.m. in this chamber. That item is done. There are a couple other items for the commission as well to discuss.
Can I just say that at that meeting, the applicant's invited to attend, the public is invited to attend, also make the same or different or amended representations as well. And Jackie, do we send that to the public again? Yes, so they'll get letters about,
Posted with the date as well as property owners. The ordinance is adjacent, but I go 250 feet, so I got a little bit extra because I wanted a few of those residential units to be touched by this, as well as advertisement in the paper.
and these couple of additional items are going to be quite short and may be relevant also to the members of the public and the applicant as well. So I encourage you to stay for that, and then if you have any questions afterwards, we can also address those about the process or et cetera, not related to the item.
Great, so item 1 is UDO update.
UDO updates. Okay, so the city has accepted proposals for a update to various ordinances and a combination of those ordinances into kind of one collected document. And that will be the zoning ordinance, which includes those lists of permitted uses and the setbacks and the densities and the landscaping requirements and parking requirements and open space and building design requirements and all of those. The subdivision ordinance, which is how big your lot has to be, how it has access to roadways and all of that. Currently, those are in 2 separate ordinances. The zoning ordinance was updated in 2015. It's fairly recent. I think the subdivision was last updated in, I'm just going to click on it so that I say this correctly. 1993. And there are some inconsistencies in those. Probably a full-scale update, we'll say it that way. There might have been some minor changes in between. Those things work together because they reference each other. So putting those into one document, they'll no longer reference each other, they'll just reference a different section of that same document. We are also looking at updating the flood damage prevention ordinance, so that's the floodplain ordinance, the watershed protection ordinance, and the stormwater ordinance that we talked about tonight. Again, making sure those are update. The flood damage prevention ordinance is from 2007, and the watershed ordinance was last done in 94, and I believe possibly similar for the watershed ordinance. No, 2007, sorry, for the stormwater ordinance. And as well as a small ordinance we have called the vested rights ordinance, a short chapter that's from 1993 as well. Now, some of those have state model ordinances and things, so we're probably using the last state model ordinance of that. But we'll be looking at that. We'll be going through a process very similar, well, somewhat similar to what we did with the comprehensive plan update. So the timing on that is that we are hoping to award a contract for that consultant firm to assist us with that because it's going to be a very big body of work, and we want to have experts on our team while we continue to process general applications and things at the March council meeting. And that being said, item number 2 is that we hope to have the consultant on board. That's March 2nd. We hope to have the consultant on board the week before that, and at the city council workshop on February 27th, a presentation that will kick off that planning process. We'll be contacting, so all of the P&Z members are invited to attend that kickoff meeting. It'll be during the day. We'll give you an exact time and things closer to the date of that meeting. As for the public, there will be numerous opportunities for the public to be involved in the rewrite of these ordinances and tell us what you want to see in your community, because we very strongly believe that it is your community. There are best practice planning theories, but there's also what's best for the city of Morganton. This committee, as well as, I think we got several thousand comments on the comprehensive plan, so a robust participation by people that live in Morganton, people that work in Morganton, people that come to Morganton for recreation and restaurant and shopping uses and things, that contributed to set the vision for the city in the comprehensive plan process and to set up this future land use map that we talked about, as well as a whole bunch of other things in that document about future plans and steps that the city need to make. There were 60-some actions in the comprehensive plan. I think 14 of them are accomplished by rewriting the subdivision and zoning ordinance. Don't quote me on that exact number, but that was one of the number one things we intended to do. We did intend to start that last January, February, and with Hurricane Helene and all of the work that the city needed to focus on and that the public was focusing on with their own homes and businesses and things, we did delay that a year so that we could ensure the focus that we think that that needs. Throughout, we expect this process to probably take 16 to 18 months. And throughout that process, there will be opportunities for the public to be involved. There will be websites, there will be surveys, there will be opportunities for you to put your input in there about likes and dislikes. There will be public meetings. There will definitely be a booth at the Morganton Festival. And there may be other events around town during the day, after hours, et cetera. And we strongly encourage all members of the public to get involved because we want to hear what you want. It's not just the couple of us up here writing this for, an anonymous group of people. We want to make sure that it works for Morganton as well as accomplishing, again, actual planning theory and practices that we see in Morganton, in North Carolina, and across the country, and making sure that it works for everybody and that we can sit in our office, and when somebody comes in with a plan and they say, I want to do this, and we say, sorry, you have to do this because this is what the people in Morganton want. This is a document that is supported by them. So we'll have an advisory committee is the plan at the moment, similar to what we had last time, and then we will also have specific workshops with the Planning Commission and City Council specifically to review some of the information, and you are also, of course, always invited to the community workshops and things that we will have as part of that process. So watch our information that's published for the community, that's published and posted here, that's published on our website, our city website, that's published on our social media pages, et cetera. And if you know anybody on this board, our expectation is that you guys will also keep people informed and be mouthpieces for the community engagement events, not necessarily promoting or supporting specific pathways, but for the community events so that we get those individuals' input into that process and have a robust process. And hopefully, and it will take some time to commit to that volume of ordinance review that we've talked about. So we do expect it to be mid-2027 or later that we, or Q3 that year that we, as it was with the the comprehensive plan review process. But we're excited about looking forward to that and making sure that we get it right. I don't know if there's a little bit of stuff that we need to massage, or if the public thinks there's a lot of stuff that we might need to change, or a lot of stuff that they like. But we'll try to do that in a manner that is easily understood by those of you that don't deal with planning every day. So that it's things that the public can comment on, and we're not using terminology and things. A lot of pictures, a lot of do you like this or do you like this? Like you're at the eye doctor, A or B? Possibly A, B, C, D, E, F, what is happening with that? So looking forward to that process, and again, encourage the public to be involved in that, development community definitely to be involved in that, real estate community, contractors, builders, because all of that are the people that have to deal with these ordinances and things every day, and we really do want that input. So starting that process off, and then, again, you guys are invited to that city council workshop, and we'll get you some more information about that.
Great. And they've already selected the consultant to lead that, or that's been
No.
finalized? Okay.
No.
Okay, got it.
We have received proposals. The proposals have not yet been reviewed, and
How many did you get?
I'm not allowed, because it's a bid process, we're not allowed to have any other discussion about that until it is awarded, until the contract is awarded, so.
Great. Thank you for
you.
sharing that.
All right.
Great. I think that concludes our agenda for this evening. Our next scheduled P and Z meeting is Thursday, February 12th, 5:15 here in this chamber. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting.